When Jack woke up, his head was sore, and he was covered in dust and dirt. He had numerous scrapes and bruises, but he was not hurt too badly. There was still some light, but Jack was lying in a deep crevice. There was no way he could climb out of it. So after taking a moment for his head to stop spinning, he set off deeper through the crevice in hope of finding an exit. After walking along the meandering crack for a while, Jack found the exact thing he had been looking for. He found the tunnel of a mine. This was not an exit. It was still better than nothing, and at least he now knew this was finally the right valley. Admittedly, he had not actually been looking for the mine entrance now. Nonetheless, his spirit was raised. One side of the tunnel had collapsed, leaving only one way to go. Jack took a few steps into the tunnel and felt a gentle breeze. There was a box of torches lying next to the tunnel supports. Jack lit one, grabbed a few more, and set off into the dark. He spent a long time walking. Tunnel went on, never seeming to end. Now and then there was a split in the tunnels, but Jack always followed the breeze. The only way Jack could tell that time was passing was with the burning out of the torches. Sooner than he wished, he was on the last one. Finally, he reached something other than more tunnel. But to Jack's dismay, it wasn't the exit. Instead, it was a shaft fitted with an elevator leading even deeper into the mountain. The light of the torch did not extend far into the dark void the elevator was suspended in. Jack dropped a rock into it to find out how deep it is. The returning echoes grew ever more distant as the rock bounced off the sides of the shaft. Jack did not hear the rock hit the bottom. The boards that made the floor of the elevator were covered in a thick layer of dust. Looking up, Jack saw large wooden pulley wheels attached to thick support beams spanning across the shaft. The old wood of the elevator creaked, and the stiff ropes strained as Jack carefully went on the elevator. He went to the back, where there was an old and rusted crank. Gently he turned the crank. With a short squeal, akin to a sigh, the crank set in motion, and he slowly descended into the dark depths below him. Every turn of the clicking crank made Jack more nervous about the integrity of the elevator. With every click, 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 a bit of dust trickled from the wood of the roof. Suddenly, the entire cage shook as one of the ropes snapped, followed by a loud crack, when the monstrous counterweight hit the wall of the shaft as it fell, sending echoes through the tunnels. Once Jack had calmed down enough that he could breathe again, he turned the crank as fast as he dared. When he reached the next level, he jumped out of the elevator as fast as he could and was exhilarated by the safety of solid ground. Yet while Jack was now on solid ground again, the last of his torches gave out. He stood for a moment, listening, trying to peer through the darkness. But there was nothing to be seen. It was too late to turn back now, to look for a different way out. So Jack just carefully set off into the unseen world of the tunnel in front of him. The echoes of his footsteps reflected off the walls. It was satisfyingly rhythmic. For ages Jack put one step in front of the other in an unending nothing. Then Jack saw something in the distance. He was so elated at seeing anything at all that he started running towards it. It wasn't the smartest thing to go running when you can't see where you're going, but that didn't matter to Jack. As he got closer to the faint blue-green glow, he heard the roaring of a waterfall, which made him realize how thirsty he was. Before Jack could reach the light, he tripped over a rock and landed face first in something squishy. This made him slow down, as well as gasp at the bitter tastes of the sticky liquid that now covered a good deal of him. The light turned out to be natural caves illuminated by nothing other than glowing mushrooms. The cave was large, with a pool at the bottom of the waterfall that came cascading from a gap in the rock near the roof. When Jack went to wash off the sticky liquid, his hand started glowing. Since he didn't know much about the substance, and he was most certainly not going to try to eat any of it, Jack decided to be careful and wash it off. Having sated his thirst and washed as much of the sticky stuff off as he could, he started following the winding caves. There was a small stream flowing from the pool. The light, however faint, made Jack feel much more comfortable, but he was soon getting tired of the tunnels and really wanted to breathe something different from the musty and very mushroomy air of the caves. Jack went through a series of caves connected by tunnels. His only company was a silent stream flowing alongside him. It flowed into an underground lake in one of the larger caves, where the mushrooms sort of looked like a forest in unending colors and sizes. In some of the caves he found paintings of creatures of which he really hoped that he would never encounter them. He was just contemplating what he would do if he happened to meet one of these creatures, when the ground became cut rock slabs. The mushroom growth became sparser, and when Jack paused to take a look at his surroundings, he was standing in an enormous hall. The sides were lined with huge pillars stretching beyond sight. There were braziers at regular intervals, but none of them were lit. Suddenly, Jack got a feeling of unease. He felt exposed, so he crept to the side of the hall, where the pillars gave him a sense of protection. Jack continued on, and soon he spotted a gemstone from the pillar he was hiding behind. It looked almost exactly like the one he had broken. There was a soft ray of grey light coming from the ceiling, like a spotlight. Somehow it seemed strange for the stone to be unguarded. The only other thing Jack could see was a truly gigantic pile of plate armor that looked like it was kneeling. It was as still as a statue. But somehow Jack still got an uneasy feeling about it. In front of it, he could see the biggest two-handed sword he had ever seen. Jack knelt for a moment, watching. Just as he was about to go, he saw something that sent shivers down his spine. It was the tiniest shift, but it looked as if the armor tensed. Jack realized that the pile of plate armor was alive. A moment later, Jack found out why the being had stirred from its stillness. At first, he could only hear footsteps, echoing with the occasional clink of chainmail and voices mixed in. As they got closer, Jack could tell that it was a group of men. They entered the hall from the side Jack had been heading towards. The man at the front said, "Finally, we found the blasted cave, and then we have to squeeze through tunnels that are barely big enough for a mouse to fit through. I have enough of this." "Oh, stop complaining, Bob. So you got stuck. That happens to everyone," a lean man answered. Before the quite stocky Bob could respond with what would most likely have turned the conversation into a brawl, the third man with a wild beard intervened. "Quiet, you two. Maybe once you've stopped your whining, you might realize that we don't want to wake the Guardian. And notice what's in front of you." Their attention instantly turned to the pedestal with the stone. Now silent, they made their way to it. With a wide smile, the lean man reached out to take the polished stone. But as soon as he touched it, a deep, feral growl emerged from the armored creature, and then it erupted into movement. Jack was running through the tunnel from which the three men had come. His memory of what had happened was a blur. The men had drawn swords and axes. They fought the beast, but they could not contend with the power of the growling Guardian. Jack saw his chance. while it was distracted and grabbed the gem. Next thing he knew, he was running through the tunnel. Suddenly, the echoing clash of weapons was replaced with silence. Jack stopped to listen, and after a moment he heard a howl that made his legs go soft. The sound of the angry beast taking up pursuit gave Jack strength again very quickly. While the beast was most certainly too big to fit through some parts of the tunnel, Jack was not sure that it would be able to do anything more than slow the beast down. Jack's lungs were burning, his legs were tired. Even though he could no longer hear the beast chasing him, he kept on running. He turned another corner and suddenly he was outside. Jack took deep, gulping breaths of the fresh air and set off looking for shelter. He found a large hollow tree stump and crawled in. There he carefully wrapped the gem in some cloth, and with his knife clutched in one hand and the stone at his chest in the other, Jack fell into an uneasy and exhausted sleep.